Rogue Legacy, the newest game from developer Cellar Games, is a platforming hack-and-slash roguelike adventure where you play as a knight on a quest to save his king at the top of a cursed castle while making your way through a randomly generated dungeon and slaying the 4 guardians that bar your path to the top. God, that was a long sentence. Each of the 4 guardians resides in a different section of the dungeon, and their locations change each time the player is killed. Upon death, the player is given a choice between 3 descendants of their first character, each with their own unique properties. These classes, such as the Errant Knight, the Sly Thief, and the Studied Mage, all have different playstyles, making for a rich experience that rarely gets repetitive. Knights can soak up damage, whereas mages primarily deal damage through their spells instead of relying on their basic attacks. Liches gain permanent health for every enemy they slay, and ninjas are super fast and deal extra damage. In addition to their class benefits, you also have several Castlevania-esque sub-weapon abilities, like throwing knives and axes, as well as special traits to choose from. Traits are passive buffs or debuffs that can drastically change the way you play your character. For example, Dwarfism shrinks your character, making you harder to hit, and allows you to move through certain passages that are too small for normal and giant-traded characters to traverse. ADHD makes you move really fast, and IBS, or Irritable Bowel Syndrome, causes your character to pass gas uncontrollably while taking actions. Your character has a basic attack, sub-weapon, a special ability if you play an upgraded class, and rune abilities if you have them unlocked, which give you additional gold per kill, stackable double jumps, dashes, and more. To unlock your new weapons, armor, and runes, you must slay enemies to earn gold. It can be used to purchase upgrades from your manor, which is represented as a skill tree. The more upgrades you purchase, the larger your manor becomes and grants you access to more upgrades, including better classes, as well as passive buffs including health, armor, defense, and more. NPCs will aid your descendants outside the castle. The blacksmith will craft new weapons and armor pieces for you so long as you found the blueprints. The enchantress sells you runes, which, as explained previously, give you passive abilities like double jumping and lifesteal. The architect will lock the castle's map for 1 life, allowing you to return to the map that you just recently died on. This comes at a price though, as he'll take 65% of the gold you earned during this run. This is best used if you've found a boss room and have the highest intentions of beating it. Throughout the game, you'll find 3 different types of chests: wooden chests, metal chests, and fairy chests. Wooden chests contain a small amount of gold, metal chests can contain either a medium to large sum of gold or a blueprint for the blacksmith. Fairy chests, on the other hand, can contain runes or blueprints, but mostly runes. When you enter a room with a fairy chest, you'll be presented with an objective to unlock it. Example objectives include having to defeat every enemy on the screen, not taking damage, or not jumping to reach it. They can be very frustrating at times, especially if you don't have the right ability or runes to tackle the situation, but can be well worth the endeavor. Also, I hope you don't like saving your hard-earned gold. Before you're allowed to re-enter the castle, Charon, or Death himself, will deny you your precious monies, emptying your purse before allowing you re-entry. Jerk. This means that you have to perform better each time you die in order to make progress, which in turn should drive up your will to do better so that you can reach the next tier of your manor, or purchase the next set of weapons and armor you've unlocked. This is my favorite aspect of the game. It seriously pushes you to get better and has an extremely balanced rate of when you get upgrades and move to more difficult areas. Some runs will net you a ton of gold and allow for new upgrades, and some runs you can play poorly and die immediately due to a difficult map generation. Of course, you can always haphazardly trudge into new areas to gain access to their better gold drops, but it can be very perilous since you'll take more damage and be subjected to enemies you haven't fought before with more health and stronger attacks. What can be pretty interesting is that some of the bosses and mini-bosses can turn the game into a bullet hell nightmare if you don't dispatch them quickly. The primary 4 guardians are an absolute blast to fight and strategize against, since certain classes work better than others against the different bosses. Some can fire a lot of hard-to-dodge projectiles, while others spawn smaller enemies to antagonize you. They are exceptionally enjoyable to battle and boast great rewards. The only problem I find with them, other than having a bit of a difficulty spike, is that you can't fight them again after having already bested them. Die-hard players and critics alike argue that this game is just a massive grindfest. I'm looking at you, Disgaea. And I agree. However, it's the sense of urgency and reward I felt when I die and lose my gold that drove me to really push myself to get better at the game, as each new area after the last was a ton of fun to explore and die repeatedly in. There are only a few major issues with Rogue Legacy that stand out to me though, and it may seem a bit nitpicky. I really dislike the way your enemies don't stop their attacks when you hit them. When you play, for instance, Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow on the Nintendo DS, smaller enemies cease their attacks when they've been hit. Since I've played and beaten just about every 2D Castlevania game, this was a big deal for me when learning Rogue Legacy. The core gameplay is almost identical to a series that I've wasted hundreds of hours of my life trying to perfect. The traits are really what change each run through for better or worse, and while there are some pretty cool ones like dwarfism and ADHD, there aren't very many that really add to the gameplay experience. The negative traits like near and farsighted, as well as the dreaded puke vision, really just subtract from the entertainment value and make those runs more of a chore instead of challenging and engaging. The neutral traits like baldness and nostalgic are cute the first few times, but really add nothing to the game. One of the final and most expensive upgrades you can purchase at your manor is the Dragoon class, and it sucks. Instead of being able to jump, you float around the screen using the D-pad. Your weapon is a single fireball with a short range and a small hitbox. The fireball costs mana to use, and while the Dragoon regenerates mana passively, the attack generally feels like it should be a special ability that's, well, special. I can't think of any predicament that the Dragoon is actually well suited to handle other than grabbing a fairy chest or two. And even then, just having a good rune set is a better option. Oh, and if you take damage, you'll fall straight to the ground. Slowly. And you can't move or change the trajectory of the fall, which makes the whole point of your mobility worthless. Other than that, I really enjoyed this game. It's difficult, but not impossible. You have the option of playing with a keyboard or a controller. I used my PS3 controller, it was awesome. Its replayability is through the roof, which is great because that's what the game was designed around. The music and the sound effects were enchanting, as well as the well-designed graphics and gameplay. I really can't find anything else wrong with this game. You can find it on Steam or GOG for $15, so give it a shot. I give Rogue Legacy an 8 out of 10. I may have been wrong about the whole enemies stopping their attacks whenever you hit them in Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, but I went back and I played it, and it seemed like it was what I described. However, half the time I was hitting the skeletons and stuff with perfect timing that I would hit them and they would still throw because it was just perfect timing. But anyway, I was probably wrong about that. Let me know in the comments if I was. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the review. If I left something out or you feel something else needs to be explained about the game, feel free to hit me up in the comments, and we'll see where it goes from there. So yeah, peace, friends.